All right. Are you ready to waste a few more minutes of your day with me in this completely unnecessary public service of emotional chaos? Because trust me, my friends, I also thought I had seen it all. I thought my family had already exhausted its lifetime quota of awkward dinners, passive aggressive comments, and silences so thick you could cut them with a knife.
Turns out, I was wrong. So welcome.
Sit down.
Stay with me until the end, my emotionally nosy little gremlins, because this story starts weird and somehow manages to get worse. Like, are we sure this is real life?
Worse.
Grab a coffee and stick with me, my friends, because you're going to need caffeine for this one.
And while you're here, hit like, subscribe, comment, and send this to that friend who swears their family is not that dramatic. Spoiler alert, it just hasn't detonated yet.
I always knew my family wasn't normal. Not quirky sitcom normal. More like everyone's fine until suddenly no one is fine, and we don't talk about it for months. I grew up learning how to read the room, how to sense danger in silence, how to disappear into my bedroom before someone brought up trauma from 1990-something. My mom, especially, was intense,
Charismatic.
controlling, the kind of woman who walks into a room and immediately owns it. People loved her. I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. And my boyfriend?
He was calm. Too calm.
The kind of guy who thinks everything can be solved by just talking it out.
Poor man.
He had no idea what universe he had entered. That day, because of course it was that day, I came home from work completely drained, mentally exhausted, physically tired, spiritually offended by existence. All I wanted was a shower, takeout, and zero human interaction.
Instead,
My boyfriend was sitting on the couch, way too comfortable, chatting with my mom like they were old friends. Laughing, bonding, vibing. I noticed it. I ignored it. Mistake number one. My mom was pacing around the kitchen, opening drawers she didn't need, closing cabinets too hard, sighing dramatically for no reason. Mistake number two, ignoring that too. Everything okay? I asked, dropping my keys. Perfect, she said. And if there's one universal truth, my friends, it's this. Perfect has never once meant perfect. We sat down for dinner. The food was good. The vibe was hostile. Something was floating in the air. Something sharp. Something waiting. You've been distant lately, my mom said suddenly, not even looking at me. I looked up.
distant how?
From your home. From your family.
From us. Ah.
Here we go. I've been working a lot, I said. I'm tired. Everyone works, she snapped. My boyfriend, sweet naive creature, tried to intervene. I think we're all just stressed, he said, smiling nervously. It's been a tough time. Silence. The bad kind. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. That internal alarm screaming, brace yourself. It's not stress, my mom said finally. It's something else. I took a breath.
Then say it.
And she did. It bothers me because I'm in love with him too. I didn't scream.
I didn't cry.
I didn't react. My brain just shut down. I blinked.
Once. Twice.
I waited for a laugh. A clarification. A just kidding. Nothing. My boyfriend turned pale. Like ghost-level pale. Eyes wide. Body frozen. Like his soul had temporarily left the building. What would you do in my place, my friends? Because I laughed. Yeah, I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because when reality punches you that hard, your brain activates emergency mode. I'm sorry, I said. Can you repeat that? Maybe I misheard. She stared at me.
Come.
Unblinking.
I don't need to repeat anything.
And that's when I knew. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a slip. This wasn't metaphorical nonsense. This was real. That night ended quietly. No screaming. No tears. No explanations. We all retreated to our corners like nothing had happened. Like a nuclear emotional bomb hadn't just gone off in the dining room. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Heart racing. Mind spiraling.
Since when? Why? How do you come back from that?
My boyfriend didn't sleep next to me that night. He said he needed air. Honestly?
So did I.
The next morning, my mom acted normal. Too normal. She made coffee. played music, asked if I slept well, like she hadn't confessed her love for my partner the night before. And that, my friends, was when the real psychological horror started. Because one thing is explosive drama. Another thing entirely is quiet gaslighting. I started replaying memories, old conversations, moments that used to feel innocent. Suddenly, everything felt off. The compliments, the long looks, the subtle comparisons. It all started making sense in the worst way possible. My boyfriend tried to talk to me, said he never encouraged it, said he felt uncomfortable, said he didn't know how to handle it. I listened. I believed him. But something inside me had shifted. Because trust doesn't break in one moment. It erodes quietly. And we were only at the beginning. The days after that night were strange. Not explosive. Not loud. Worse. Quiet. My mom moved through the house like nothing had happened. She smiled. She cooked. She asked if I'd be home for dinner. Commented on the weather. On the news. On absolutely meaningless things. As if she hadn't dropped an emotional nuclear bomb in the middle of our lives. And that, my friends, is a special kind of psychological torture. I walked on eggshells. Every sentence felt dangerous. Every word could trigger something. I suddenly felt like a guest in my own home. My boyfriend, meanwhile, looked like a man carrying guilt that wasn't his. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because he was trapped in the center of a nightmare he didn't sign up for. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. "We need to talk," I said to my mom. She turned off the TV calmly. Too calmly. "Okay," she said. "What's going on?" "What's going on?" My soul almost left my body. "What you said the other night wasn't normal," I began. "It wasn't okay. It wasn't healthy." She sighed. Long, dramatic. Like I was attacking her. "I can't control how I feel," she said. "Feelings aren't a choice." And that's when I realized something important, my friends. When someone uses feelings as a shield, they've already crossed a dangerous line. "But you can control what you say," I replied. "And what you do with those feelings." Her expression shifted. Not soft anymore. Defensive. "I never did anything," she said. "I never crossed a boundary." "Really?" "Because confessing love for your daughter's boyfriend is very much a boundary." Besides, she added, "You've always been distant. He listens to me. He understands me." That's when the floor dropped out from under me. This wasn't just a confession. It was comparison. Competition. I wasn't talking to my mother anymore. I was competing with her over a man who never asked to be part of the story. Can you feel how twisted that is? I left that conversation shaking. Angry. Hurt.
Confused.
And here's the scariest part. I started wondering if I was the problem. That's what emotional manipulation does. It makes you question your own reality. My boyfriend tried to talk to me that night. "I swear I never encouraged her," he said. I felt uncomfortable the whole time. I looked at him. I believed him. But belief didn't erase the damage. Because even when someone is innocent, the situation can still destroy everything. The house became an emotional minefield. I avoided being alone with my mom. My boyfriend avoided coming over. And my mom played normal, like ignoring the problem would erase it. One afternoon, I heard her crying in her room. Real crying, not performative. For a second, I almost went in, almost hugged her, almost comforted her. And then I remembered something crucial. Not every tear is remorse. Sometimes it's frustration for not getting what you want. That night, I made a decision. No yelling, no scene, no dramatic exit. I packed clothes, documents, the essentials. My boyfriend watched silently. "I need space," I told him. "To think.
To breathe."
My mom stood in the doorway when she saw the bags. She didn't say a word. She just looked at me. And in that look, I didn't see regret. I saw loss of control. I left. Not out of anger. Not to punish anyone. But to survive. Because some lines, once crossed, change everything forever. And because I finally understood something painful. Loving someone doesn't mean allowing everything. If you made it this far, support with a like, because the next part isn't about leaving. It's about what breaks after. Leaving didn't fix anything right away. It just created distance. And distance, my friends, is dangerous when it's full of unsaid things. I stayed at a friend's place for a while. One of those friends who doesn't ask too many questions, but looks at you like, whenever you're ready, I'm here. I slept badly. Ate worse. My body was safe, but my mind was still trapped in that house. My mom texted me like nothing had happened. Too normal. Again. Did you get there okay? Don't forget it's cold tonight. Let me know if you need anything. No apology. No accountability. No acknowledgement of the emotional wreckage. And somehow that hurt more than the confession itself. My boyfriend wasn't okay either. You could see it in him. He carried guilt that wasn't his. Moved carefully. Spoke softly. No matter what I do, someone gets hurt, he told me one night. Welcome to the nightmare, babe. I knew I couldn't just disappear forever. I needed closure. Or at least something that looked like it. So I agreed to meet my mom. We sat across from each other. A table between us. Enough space to stay calm and distant. I'm not here to fight, I said. I just need to understand. She nodded. Serious.
Composed. Me too, she said.
This hurt both of us. There it was. Both of us. That quiet attempt to split the blame. What you said crossed a line, I continued. Not just as my mother. As a human being. She pressed her lips together. I never meant to hurt you, she said. But I won't lie about my feelings. Again. Feelings as armor. Feelings as justification.
Saying it was a choice, I replied.
And that choice shattered something in me. And then came the turn. The one that still stings. Maybe she said this happened because you never really appreciated what you had.
Oh.
So that's where we were going. She listed things. How independent I always was. How I pulled away. How he listened to her. How he paid attention. In that moment, I stopped being her daughter. I became her rival. Over a man who never asked to be part of this mess. Do you understand how deeply messed up that is? I'm not competing with you, I said. And definitely not over someone who doesn't belong to you. She cried then.
Hard.
The kind of crying that looks convincing to anyone who doesn't know the context. You're abandoning me, she said. You're leaving me alone. And there it was. The final manipulation. Because setting boundaries is not abandonment. It's self-preservation. I stood up, took a breath, and said the hardest sentence of my life. I need distance. A lot of it. Silence.
She didn't yell.
She didn't beg. She just looked at me like someone losing something, not like someone regretting breaking it. I walked out with my chest tight, but lighter, because for the first time, I didn't doubt myself. It wasn't a victory. It was a necessary wound. If you've made it this far, support with a like, because the next part is where consequences show up. After that conversation, nothing exploded. Nothing dramatic happened. And somehow that was worse. Because some endings don't slam doors. They just slowly stop opening. My mom stopped texting every day. Then every few days. Then not at all. Not as punishment. As strategy. Because silence can be control too. I tried to keep living.
Work. Routine.
Friends. Functioning on the outside. But inside? Inside was a quiet kind of grief. Because Harry's the part no one prepares you for. I missed her. Not who she was. But who I thought she was. I missed the version of my mom that felt safe. The one I believed would never cross certain lines. The one that apparently never existed the way I imagined. And grieving someone who's still alive is brutal. There's no closure. No final goodbye. Just absence with a pulse. My boyfriend stayed. He really tried. He was patient. Careful. Almost apologetic for existing. If you want me to step back, I will, he said one night. I don't want to make this worse. That broke something in me. Because he wasn't the villain. He was collateral damage. We tried to move forward. But something invisible sat between us. Not jealousy. Not anger. Something heavier. Every memory involving family felt contaminated. Every mention of my mom tightened my chest. He couldn't just be my partner anymore. He was part of the fracture. And even when love is real, Sometimes the situation poisons it. One night, after an argument about absolutely nothing, it hit me. This isn't fair, I said quietly.
He didn't argue.
He just nodded. I know. No screaming. No blame. No dramatic speeches. Just two exhausted people letting go of something that had been wounded beyond repair. We ended things gently.
Sadly.
With respect. And just like that, I lost two relationships at once. My partner. And the family I thought I had. Months passed.
Therapy.
Distance. Relearning how to trust my instincts. My mom eventually reached out again. Short messages. Surface level. As if nothing had happened. I responded. Carefully. With boundaries. Because I learned something the hard way, my friends. Access to your life is not a right. It's earned. We're not the same now. Maybe we never will be. And yes, it still hurts. But it hurts less than betraying myself. Erase what I know for sure. Not everything that comes from family is healthy. Not everything that hurts deserves forgiveness. And not every bond survives the truth.
So let me ask you, would you have cut contact? Would you have forgiven her? Or would you have pretended nothing happened just to keep the peace? Comment below, my friends. I need to know what you would have done. Like this story, share it, and send it to someone who might need to hear it. Because sometimes, choosing yourself is the bravest thing you can do. And yeah, I'd do it again.